Kimberly vividly remembered the day when Ellen first appeared on their doorstep. Her grandmother brought her to the house, holding her hand. The skinny, frightened girl tried to hide behind the woman and did not dare to look up. Kimberly remembered how decisively she reached out her hand to Ellen and cheerfully offered, "Let's make friends. My name is Kimberly, and this is my grandmother." These words made the strange girl even more confused, and tears appeared in her eyes. "No, mine," she said quietly. Greta decided to intervene so that the girl's introduction did not turn into a quarrel. In a conciliatory tone, but strictly enough, she said, addressing both of them, "Now, I am your common granny, and I do not allow anyone to argue and quarrel. We will live peacefully and amicably, and you will definitely become real sisters." With these words, she pulled both orphans to her and hugged them with all the tenderness and love that her big heart was capable of. Kimberly immediately found out that the new girl was a year younger than her, and this discovery calmed her down a bit. Feeling more grown up at 6, she decided to take care of her newly acquired younger sister. Ellen, who had recently lost her mother, often cried at first and asked Greta to take her to her. Kimberly saw that her grandmother was very upset every time she heard these words. She used to take Ellen on her lap and began to calm and comfort her. It made Kimberly sad too, and in such moments she moved closer to her grandmother and tried to press her cheek, at least a little, against the warmth of her body. Grandmother always smelled perfect, sometimes of apple soap, sometimes of sweet baked goods, and sometimes of mint tea, which she loved to brew in a small old teapot with a chipped spout. Kimberly never knew her mother. Greta's daughter died in childbirth, and her grandmother replaced the little girl's mother at birth. She also did not remember her father. Her grandmother told her that for the first 6 months he lived with his daughter, then went to another city to earn money, and only appeared in their house a few times when he came to the city to reissue some documents. In the last few years, there was no news of him, but Kimberly herself did not remember him. He remained for her as an unknown with an old picture. Greta often told Kimberly about her mother. The girl loved to go through her mother's pictures in an old album, where she was a very young girl with braids sticking out in different directions. Kimberly found out where Ellen had come from in their house much later. Just one winter evening, her grandmother decided to tell the girls about her acquaintance with Kimberly's mother. "I was working as a nurse at our local hospital at that time. Maggie, my daughter, was still small, and I gave birth to her late, at 40. And your mother, Ellen, I was like a mother to her, because there was almost a 20-year age difference between us. We worked together with your mother, Ellen, for almost 15 years. She, like me, could not give birth to a child for a long time. I remember how she often complained to me, and I comforted her and said, 'Look at me. God gave me a child when I was 38, when I did not expect it, and He will bless you.' And she did wait. I remember how Michelle rejoiced when she learned that she was expecting a daughter. She baked a big cake and treated us all. And then I retired. My health wasn't excellent after Maggie's death, and I had to take care of Kimberly. That's how your mother and I lost each other for a while. But when I found out that Michelle died of heart disease, I immediately went to you, Ellen. I know Michelle raised you alone. She had no relatives, and no one knows who your father was. Michelle didn't say anything about him. I came and you were such a sacred little mouse. My heart couldn't take it, and I took you to my home. I'll never forgive myself for losing Michelle like that. It was hard for me, and it wasn't any easier for her. We had to stick together, and you, little girls, may not be blood sisters, but I'm sure you'll be closer to each other than some blood sisters. So don't ever lose each other. Together you can handle any trouble." Despite the age difference, Greta put the girls in the same class. She did not want to separate them, and she did the right thing. The girls always stood up for each other and didn't let anyone hurt them. Ellen and Kimberly always sat together at the same desk, went to school together, and came home together. Together they fell in love with the same boy for the first time and almost quarrelled because of him forever. Then, at the same moment, they suggested making peace with each other and never quarrelling over trifles again. And together, they decided to enroll in the same college. It was costly to study full-time. Money was always in short supply. A year later, Kimberly and Ellen switched to distance learning. The girls immediately got a job as cleaners in a small company, and after work, they worked hard on their college lectures. But Kimberly could not endure half a year of such a hectic life, and having said goodbye, her grandmother and sister went to conquer the capital. For the first time in many years, the sisters went their separate ways. Ellen was distressed about Kimberly, who became less frequent with her calls. Probably the capital life caught her in its whirlwind. Unfortunately, soon Ellen's worries and anxieties increased. Her grandmother's health had taken a sharp turn. Whether it was loneliness or old age that had affected her, Greta had been complaining more and more about her eyesight. She became almost blind and practically walked around the house blindly. "When will Kimberly come?" the elderly woman used to ask anxiously. "I'll go blind soon and won't see my granddaughter any more." Ellen now tried to spend as much time with her grandmother as possible. This became increasingly difficult because Ellen had met a man, and one day the young woman confessed to her grandmother that he had already proposed to her. "How wonderful, granddaughter! We will have your wedding, and Kimberly will come too. It will be so good. I've already given up on seeing her again. Our dear capital dweller has forgotten about us," Greta said. Ellen called her sister, and she seemed happy for her, but Kimberly's voice was somewhat distant and seemed a little upset. "What's going on with you? Why haven't you called? Grandma has become very ill. She sits by the window more and more often with your pictures, and even though she can hardly see anything, she tries to catch a glimpse of you on the path leading to the house. Are you going to come to my wedding at least?" "Ellen, I'll try my best. I'll come, and you'll see for yourself what's going on with me. I don't know if our meeting will be happy or not, but I simply can't miss admiring you in your wedding dress." Kimberly's strange hints aroused even more suspicions, and Ellen couldn't sleep and kept thinking about what her sister was hiding from her. She never told them the time of her arrival, and the elderly lady watched her granddaughter from her unchanging post, catching the first rays of the sun. "Ellen, look who's coming!" she would shout every time a shadow appeared on the horizon. "No, Grandma, that's not Kimberly. That's Mr. Smith going to the store." "And who's behind him?" "Oh, that's Mrs. Campbell carrying the mail." When Kimberly finally appeared on the path in front of the house, no one ever believed it was her. But the woman didn't look like herself at all. She had dyed her long blonde hair a dark chestnut colour. But that wasn't what bothered Ellen. Kimberly was at least 6 months pregnant. Greta did her best to see her beloved granddaughter and couldn't believe that the plump woman was her tiny, fragile Kimberly. "Yes, it's me, Grandma," Kimberly laughed, and Greta cried with joy. "This is my Kimberly's voice. Come to me, baby, and let me hug you. How big you've become. Are you pregnant?" "Why didn't you tell us anything?" Ellen asked, hurt. "Are we strangers to you?" "What's there to say? You see, I went to the capital and achieved success and recognition," Kimberly replied bitterly and sarcastically. "My job was the simplest. I was a waitress in a restaurant. Now I don't work there anymore. They asked me to leave. My belly is too big. I've returned to you for good, if you'll have me back." "Of course we will. And what about the father of the child?" "Father? Well, he doesn't need me, and he doesn't need my children either." "Children? Are you having more than one child?" "I'm expecting twins. That's why my belly is so big. I only found out recently." So it turns out I will soon be an aunt twice, Ellen exclaimed happily and hugged her sister. Then Kimberly and Greta also sat hugging each other for a long time. Kimberly cried like a child, complaining about her fate, and her grandmother pitied her like she did when she was a child. "Kimberly, what happened to your man? Did he chicken out?" Greta asked carefully. "Perhaps he got scared, or maybe he listened to his mother. I thought he loved me and I trusted him, but it turned out to be a mummy's boy. His mother told him to leave me, and he obeyed like a trained puppy. I cried for a whole week. I couldn't even go to work, and when I finally did, I was told that I was laid off. I tried to find a job in the capital, but worked somewhere else for a while. But who needs a pregnant woman? It's a good thing Ellen called and invited me home, otherwise I probably wouldn't have dared to show up like this. A complete failure, and pregnant too." "Don't talk nonsense. This is your home. You are welcome here at any time of day or night," said Grandma sternly and kindly, like she used to in childhood. "And your children will be welcome here too." "Of course, sis," confirmed Ellen. "We won't abandon you. We will help you." Kimberly came to Ellen's wedding with a smile on her face. Her heart had calmed down a bit, and she felt the support of her loved ones. She was happy for Ellen, who was getting married for love, and was therefore blooming like a delicate, fragile flower, with thin, transparent petals and a heady aroma. After the wedding, time flew quickly, but the last few months were very difficult for Kimberly, because the huge belly, which constantly hurt her back, she was worried about her constant weakness. Kimberly tried not to worry, but her condition was getting worse. The doctors didn't like her symptoms, and it was decided to schedule the birth 2 weeks earlier to examine Kimberly as soon as possible and find the cause of her constant weakness. When the first snow covered the ground, 2 brothers were born, Timothy and David. The boys were very weak, but the doctors reassured that there would be no serious problems with the babies. After examining Kimberly, the doctors gave her a terrible diagnosis: cancer. "How can this be?" Ellen cried. "You're still so young." The terrible news shook both sisters. Ellen walked as black as a cloud. Kimberly seemed to lose all her life force shortly. "We won't tell Grandma. She won't be able to handle such news," Ellen decided. "We will fight together, you and me. I will go with you to the doctor, sit next to you, and hold your hand if you really feel bad." "It won't work. One of us has to be with the children, and we'll have to tell Grandma, otherwise she'll never forgive us. I'll try to pull through for the sake of the children. I have to live so that my babies won't be orphans like us." But when the apple trees bloomed in the garden, they buried Kimberly. Cancer destroyed her in a matter of months, giving her no chance to fight for her life. During those few months that Kimberly was dying of a terrible disease, everything around her was falling apart. Ellen and her husband's relationship gradually deteriorated. Their newly blossoming love couldn't withstand the heavy trial. Ellen was constantly with her sister and her babies, and her husband was moving away from her more and more. Ellen saw this, but she couldn't sacrifice her sister for the sake of a man. Grandma had finally gone blind. The terrible news of her granddaughter's illness fell on her like a huge stone. She seemed to have cried out the remnants of her vision, and now lived in complete darkness. The only ones who made both women at least a little happy were Timothy and David. The boys were growing stronger every day. What will happen to the kids now? Greta looked into the void in front of her with her sightless gaze. "I guess you'll have to put them in an orphanage, Ellen. It's a pity for the boys, but I can't take care of them myself. I need help myself. And you're still so young. Your family is falling apart. You've had enough of taking care of everyone with us. It's time for me to think about myself." "What are you talking about, Grandma?" Ellen protested, hearing her words. "You didn't give me away to an orphanage, but now You are suggesting to give up Kimberly's children away. I'll never abandon her promise, and I'll adopt them. If my husband doesn't support me, let him go. Why do I need a man who won't lend a hand in a difficult moment? Ellen, my girl, how will you cope alone? Grandma, remember how you told Kimberly that there are good people around? I'll manage somehow, and you, for now, will help me with your kind words, if not deeds. Pressing the little ones to herself, hugging their little warm bodies, and remembering her dead sister, Ellen often cried, softly and bitterly. She did not want to upset her grandmother, and tried to seem strong, but she was terribly scared inside. The children's welfare authorities could easily take the boys away from them. To adopt the boys, it was necessary that Ellen's husband gave his consent, but he categorically refused. Divorce loomed on the horizon, but Ellen didn't know if it would solve the adoption problems. And then she decided to find the boy's father. Ellen remembered what Kimberly said about him, a weak-willed mama's boy. Maybe he didn't know anything about their fate or about the children. After all, he was sent somewhere in France for an internship at some Michelin restaurant. Ellen was determined to find him in the capital, but first she had to solve the problem of who would temporarily take care of the kids and the grandmother while she was away. But the world is not without kind people, as her grandmother used to say. After agreeing with kind neighbours to look after the children and grandmother, Ellen headed to the capital. She only knew that the child's father's name was Peter, and he was the administrator of a restaurant that belonged to his mother until they sent him away from his pregnant fiancée. On her first day in the city, Ellen found the place where his sister Kimberly used to work. The capital's restaurant was very respectable and clearly brought a considerable income to its owners. "Hello, I need Peter," she decisively announced to the waiter in the way. "Mr. Barron," he clarified. "Yes, probably. He worked here as an administrator 2 years ago. He's the owner's son." "We have a different administrator now. Maybe you need to go to him, or—" "I don't need an administrator. I need Peter. I have a personal matter with him." All the way through, Ellen turned herself into the fact that she wouldn't be timid in front of the capital folks. There was too much at stake, and she, realizing this, spoke confidently and even too arrogantly. But the experienced waiter just smiled and said, "Mr. Barron is on a procurement run now, but his mother is here. Maybe you want to talk to her?" "Great, she's the one I need. Let me through." And Ellen resolutely walked into the hall. There were many visitors, but with some unerring intuition, she identified the owner as a stately, slender lady, closely watching how a young man and men in impeccably formal uniforms were bustling between tables. She remembered what Kimberly told her about the rules at the previous job: no frivolity with customers, no romance between employees. "Mrs. Barron, hello. I'm here on behalf of Kimberly. Do you remember Kimberly Dewar?" Ellen went on the offensive right away. "Quietly, girl, there's no need to shout. Let's go to my office and talk calmly there." They went into the director's office, and Constance gestured for Ellen to sit down. "Who are you to Kimberly?" Constance asked. She tried to remain calm, but it was clear that she was nervous. "I'm her sister." "And what do you want, sister? Money? A job?" The woman literally hissed, her whole body beginning to shake with anger. "Did you know she was expecting a baby?" "Of course you have known. She gave birth to twins." "Excellent, congratulations, but what does that have to do with me?" "You have nothing to do with it, except that you did everything you could to make the children grow up without a father." Both women were so excited about the conversation that they didn't notice Peter entering the office. He was still a very young man, but it turned out that the last 2 years spent in France among grown-up, independent and enthusiastic people, far away from his authoritarian mother, had not passed without a trace for him, and the last thing Ellen said was overheard by him. "Mum, I don't understand. What children?" "Son, it's none of your business. This woman got the wrong address and she's leaving," Constance said, glaring threateningly at Ellen. But she had picked the wrong person to threaten. The once delicate and frail Ellen had turned into a tigress after a year of suffering and loss, ready to fight to the death for her children. "You are mistaken, ma'am. I am in the right address, and it's not your business at all. I am here for Mr. Barron." Ellen stressed the surname, showing the young man that he was a grown-up who should answer for himself and his actions. "Mum, leave us," Peter asked his mother. "Don't listen to this troublemaker, Sonny." "Mum, I'll handle it. Please leave the room." The woman glared angrily at Ellen and left, slamming the door. To say that Peter was shocked after hearing Ellen's story would be an understatement. He didn't try to justify himself. Ellen already understood that he had no idea that his ex-girlfriend had given birth, let alone to twins, and the news of Kimberly's death had left him stunned. He was convinced that she had left him, gone somewhere unknown, and get rid of the pregnancy, as his mother had told him. He didn't have her home address, and to his great shame, he didn't bother to find out or even call her. If she didn't wait for him in France, it was fate. After listening to Ellen, he didn't start to find out the details of the role his mother had played in all this. It was all behind him, and nothing could be undone. But a mother was a mother, and he had no other, and would not have another. But he had children now, and there was Ellen, whom they considered their mother, and there was an elderly woman who raised Ellen and Kimberly. Not much time passed, and Ellen, agreeing with Peter's arguments, brought her entire family to his apartment. At first, she didn't want to hear about it, but seeing him travel 1,000 kilometers every week to see the little ones, she realized that it couldn't go on like this. The decisive factor was the fact that he lived independently in his own separate apartment, which meant that his mother would not interfere in their lives. But Ellen was surprised when Constance appeared on their doorstep just a couple of weeks after they moved to the capital. Ellen immediately tensed up because Peter was not at home, and she did not feel like a mistress in his house, and she was not, in fact. But her tigress reaction, guarding the interests of her children, worked almost instantly. "What do you want? Why are you here?" "I came in peace, Ellen. Please forgive me and understand." "I'll never understand people like you," Ellen replied. "I was raised and brought up not by my natural grandmother, and she loved me like I was her own. But what about you? You're not poor people, but you abandoned your own grandchildren." "Ellen, the point is that we have to find a common language. I know something you don't know yet. My son loves you. He told me, but he forbade you to talk about it. He was afraid you would refuse to move in with him. But I've lived my life and understood that sooner or later, you two will be together. And not just for the children's sake. Please don't deprive me of my son and my grandchildren. I already made a mistake once, driving pregnant Kimberly away and deceiving Peter. Let me make it right." Since that conversation, there have been many more meetings and other conversations, and in the end, Ellen forgave Peter's mother. Constance met her grandchildren and became attached to them with all her heart. It was impossible not to love these two little ones, who looked like 2 peas in a pod, and like their dad in their childhood. A little more time passed, and Ellen and Peter got married, and soon Ellen told her grandmother that she would become a great-grandmother again. After all, Timothy and David were going to have a little sister. However, that's a completely different story.